Good morning, everyone. Buenos días, todo el mundo. Thank you for joining our GRHCC Cafecito Wednesday. My name is Carmen Linus. I'm the current chair of the GRHCC. Today, we have amazing panelists for you. Our agenda for today is going to be we are going to have Council Member Andy Melendres, the Riverside City Council for Ward 2, discussing some issues for the city. We're going to have Mr. Nathan Mustafa from Riverside City Traffic Engineer and Mobility Planner. Our member spotlight is going to be Miss Nancy Melendres. She's going to be speaking on the Tamale Festival and additionally the Spanish Heritage. We are going to have our co-treasurer, Brian Sahagan, who's a local attorney, giving us COVID local legal updates. And we will have Joe Ramos, our executive director, speaking about just some updates for the chamber. Thank you for joining us. At this time, our council member is having some technical difficulties joining on. So we are gonna proceed and start with Mr. Mustafa. Memo, can we go to his slide? Thank you. Nathan, welcome to our Cafecito Wednesdays.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'd like to briefly share my screen. I know I have probably about 6 minutes here to go over the subject. We're going to be talking about vehicle miles traveled and the changes to how we analyze new development here in the city of Riverside. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. And then if someone could please just let me know if you see it. I'd like to show everybody the website that we've made to go over the subject. You can find it, the link that was in the PowerPoint just now, at riversideca.gov/VMT update. And this is a change to how we assess when new developments being built, whether it's housing, industrial, or office. We're changing how we measure transportation impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act process called CEQA. This is a state mandated change. The state is requiring that all California agencies have policies to address VMT adopted by July 1st of this year. There are some efforts going on right now from other agencies or interest groups to try to delay the process as a result of COVID-19. However, as of right now, the law is that Riverside and other agencies will need to have a policy responsive to VMT changes in CEQA. So what is VMT? How might it impact your business? Essentially, for years, what we have assessed when we are looking at transportation impacts is level of service. Level of service is a measure of delay at intersections and along roadways, where we look at how many cars a development's going to add when it's coming in. Say if it's an apartment building, we have a standard rate of number of vehicles during the peak hours of traffic that are applied to the road and run through a traffic model. And then traditionally, traffic engineers would measure the increased delay at intersections and assign a level of service grade to that intersection. So if it was F, it would be unacceptable. And if it was A, that's considered a very good level of service. Unfortunately, what this led to over years and years was us expanding roadways to a point where they become difficult to maintain, and also adding capacity that was just very quickly used up by additional vehicles on the road. So we were kind of stuck in a cycle of building to an almost insatiable level of demand. So the state's response to that, in an effort to reduce that pattern of building, in an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, has required that local agencies switch from level of service, which encouraged roadway expansion, to vehicle miles traveled, measuring that for new developments. So now a new development must measure how far people are going to drive to and from that development. So if it's a new office or a new industrial site, the distance that the employees travel to and from work is going to be the defining metric, as opposed to the delay that they experience on the roadway. By changing it, then we will end up reducing the amount of miles people travel on the road. That should help reduce delays. It should also help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, congestion on the roadways, wear and tear, and that's the state's objective with changing to VMT. You can read all about it on this website. So what are we doing in Riverside? We are changing our traffic impact analysis guidelines. We are bringing a report to the City Council on June 16th to review some of the standards that we're going to be recommending for vehicle miles traveled. There's still some choices that the council needs to make. The state didn't 100% define exactly how agencies need to implement. They left us some discretion. So the most important thing that the council is going to be deciding is exactly how much do we require new development to reduce VMT. The two alternatives before them are alternative A is we will require development to reduce vehicle miles traveled to 15% below the current average vehicle miles traveled. And again, vehicle miles traveled is how far people drive to and from a development. And this alternative B is simply requiring that new development won't make vehicle miles traveled worse. As in they can't exceed the current averages, but we're not requiring them to go 15% below. The reason that the council might consider alternative A is that is the recommendation from the state. The state's Governor's Office of Planning and Research and the State Department of Transportation have both endorsed a 15% reduction to vehicle miles traveled. Obviously, that would be more protective of things like greenhouse gas emissions as well, whereas alternative B would be more permissive for new development. And so it would reduce the amount of development that would need to conduct analyses. It would reduce the amount that they need to mitigate, and it would reduce the amount of developments that end up ultimately conducting environmental impact reports as a result of vehicle miles traveled. Some of the things that developments will have to do to mitigate VMT are listed on our website as well. So either locating development accordingly, changing the site design to be more bike and pedestrian friendly, making improvements to the transit network, providing transit passes to employees, implementing telework and remote work programs for employees, and changing how they charge for parking on their site. So I'd just like to show you at the end of this website, there's a lot of documents. And again, this is riversideca.gov/VMT update. There's a lot of resources here for you to read through. And I'm going to be working on posting these maps as well. These maps show the different alternatives that I was just talking about and the areas in the city that would be potentially exempt from analysis. So you can see here that alternative A is more strict. This is for office and industrial building when compared to alternative B that has a lot more area considered exempted from analysis. The same can be said for alternative A for residential. You can see these are the exemption areas around the high quality transit line and the low VMT areas in the city. And alternative B has a few more areas that are potentially exempt. And just finally, I'd want to note that in addition to these exemption areas for transit and low VMT that new development would be able to take advantage of, anything that's currently adopted in the housing element would also be exempt from VMT analysis. So there's several paths to exemption. We also have many exemptions for retail development that I don't have time to get into today, but those are all listed in our staff report. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have. I know this is a lot to digest in just 6 minutes, so hopefully some of it made sense. We want to make sure that at the very least, you know that there are resources available to understand this process and understand exactly what's changing in the city.
Thank you so much, Nathan. We really appreciate your time and taking the time to actually explain this to us. And my understanding is that this is going to go before the City Council in 2 weeks. Is that correct?
It's going to go before them next week on the 16th.
Okay, on the 16th. Okay. So it would be good for any of our viewers to make sure they log on to the website to become more informed so that they know one way or another what their opinion is.
Exactly. And I'll just emphasize for the group that, as of right now, this is the state's mandated requirement that we change how we analyze. It's really the degree to which we change and how we adopt new policies that council is going to be deciding on. Although there are some folks seeking some kind of relief from VMT, that really hasn't been decided yet.
Okay. Well, we really, really appreciate your time. And I would like to remind our viewers that if you have any questions for any of our panelists, whether it's Nathan or any of our other panelists, please make sure to use the Q&A box below so that we can address any questions that you may have. Thank you so much, Nathan. And next we have our council member, Andy Melendres. It is my pleasure to introduce Andy. Andy is currently serving his 4th term on the Riverside City Council, and he's also running for mayor. He would be the first Latino to serve as mayor in Riverside in 135 years if he were to win mayor. Andy does a lot for our community, for our small businesses. He's been a huge supporter of the chamber and just of our community. He's done amazing things. And Andy, thank you so much for joining us and being part of our Cafecito Wednesdays.
Oh, you're welcome. Welcome. Glad to be here. Is there anything you want me to talk about? I mean, there has been so many things just in the past 3 weeks that have really, changed the way we're doing business here in the city of Riverside. And, Nathan, you just heard from him. We are very lucky to have Nathan as one of our traffic engineers. He's very complete and very specific about the types of things that are happening in the city of Riverside. He's been extremely helpful in our East Side community, as well as other parts of Ward 2, in helping us recraft and almost like redesign a street we call Park Avenue between 14th Street and University Avenue. So we're real excited. We're combining all the different components of the city that the city has and the East Side has on Park Avenue. So we already have an artist in residence there. You'll be some murals, you'll see some bike racks, you'll see some improved lighting, you're gonna be seeing street traffic calming, bike lanes, more walkability. Hopefully it'll improve and create more opportunity for the small businesses along Park Avenue that we've not seen for years and years and years. And when you think about Lincoln Park, that's right there on Park Avenue 14 years ago, the main focus there was difficulties and challenges with drugs and some of the other problems we had. That problem has gone away. And we had a problem with also the other park. I remember the name of the other park out there on Linden Street, Patterson Park, which also had a huge problem, which with the help of the neighbors and everybody else, we've been able to change quite a bit. So Nathan has been very instrumental in helping us with that and seeking out funding to improve our community in and around that area, as well as other parts of the city of Riverside. Well, you probably know about the coronavirus. You probably heard about the COVID-19 and a lot of the challenges that we've had. And a lot of us are calling this really the new normal. We're seeing a lot of changes. Obviously, this is one example of the change and how we're doing business. Creates a lot of convenience for a lot of people. It really keeps us really busy because we go from one Zoom to one Ring to one Team to one Go meeting, one right after the other. So it really creates a huge challenge for us, but it keeps us very active and knowing what's going on in the city of Riverside. When you think about the coronavirus, we'll just talk about that, and we're going to talk a little bit about the protests that we had just this past and some of the police issues that are coming up now and some of the budget issues. When you think about the coronavirus and when we first went into this about March 16th, and then we went into more lockdown mode about the 25th of March, we didn't really have too many cases in the city of Riverside. Right now, we're just under 1,500 cases in the city of Riverside. We have 1,490 cases in the city of Riverside. But when you look at the numbers, just when you look at the overall county numbers, and you look at the cultural breakdown, the highest number of individuals that are infected per 100,000 is the Latino community. We have about 376 on the average per 100,000 people that are being infected by the virus. African Americans are 225 per 100,000, and Caucasians are 159 per 100,000. So when you take the other three, and then we're the highest, obviously, as a cultural background. The Asian population and the Native American population is about the same as the Caucasian population, but we more than double the Caucasian population, and we almost double the African American population. So I think we need to be more aware of that, and why that is it lack of health insurance? Is it just the way we're finding that Latinos tend to be more in a household? That might be part of the problem. We don't really know. We haven't really studied, but when you look at the county statistics, again, per 100,000, we have the highest, and we're at 376 individuals per 100,000. So that's just in the county of Riverside, something for us as a community to be aware of, that we have the highest percentage. The other is that, we had several protests, police protests over well, let me go back to that. City Hall is opening up very, very slowly. We want to make sure that we have all the precautionary measures in place and make this area as safe as possible. We know that the coronavirus infections are increasing. At one point, we had it down to 1%, 1.2%. We're now over 4%. So that continues to grow. It's important for us to be aware and still be cautious about this, because it's very contagious and it can spread very quickly if we don't take those precautionary measures. In City Hall, we do want to be, we want to take every precaution to minimize the growth. And that's the way we have to phrase it, to minimize the growth. We know it's going to grow, but we just need to find ways to minimize it. So we are going to be opening up slowly but surely. We are probably going to be fully open. I'm guessing probably be sooner, by the end of the month. And we're going to be deciding how and what our workforce is going to look like at that time, or during that time period. We're working right now with the Human Resources Department and wanting to make sure that we're working to create that safe environment for everyone. The other thing that's been keeping us pretty busy have been the protests that occurred this past week, taking every precaution. The biggest one, obviously, was the one that happened a week ago last Monday. Estimates for the participation were about anywhere between 5,000 to 6,000 individuals that came out to protest. According to our police chief, there were 200 that stayed after the protest or arrived at the end of the protest. And they, after about an hour and 15 minutes after curfew, the police, I think, had made 7 calls asking individuals to disperse prior to making a move to vacate the area. There were some break-ins. I think probably the one that most individuals are familiar with is the one at the CVS on Market Street. According to our police chief, when they were able to secure control of the location there at the CVS, there apparently a group went out towards the Tyler Galleria, and the police were there. So they thwarted any damage that could have been done there. But since that happened, they then went to the Riverside Plaza to try to do damage there, and the police were there as well. So that was, there was no damage there. So I think they did an excellent job in making sure that as many businesses were protected as possible. There was a story that was related to me by a small business person. There were some looters and some vandals that broke into Tio Tacos right there on Michigan Avenue. A group of individuals were at the taco station, and they told the owner of the taco station that they would watch the business for them, even after the curfew, but would be there sitting on the patio, making sure that nobody damaged it. Well, the looters did break into Tio Tacos, and then they made their way down a half a block to break into the tobacco shop. And the tobacco shop, as it was being broken into, the individuals at the taco station noticed that they were being broken into. So they started running towards the looters, and were fortunate and chased the looters away. So these are East Side residents going to Ward 2, and chasing looters away, which tells you you don't mess around with Ward 2. And this was Pastor Hebron and his congregation that chased the looters. So they did a great job in making sure that all the businesses were safe as well. So
the community involvement is important, Andy, like you're saying. Just like community members stepping up and protecting other businesses and helping, other small businesses. I saw a lot of businesses helping each other board up, just protect themselves. But then on the underlying, like as a community, since the death of George Floyd, it's been hard for our community. It's been hard to continue to see police brutality, to the lack of change. And so as a community, just what would you say to the younger generation, just to the community in general that's angry, that's hurt, that's confused, that wants change? And I know one way is like civic engagement and so forth, but what would your message be to our community as far as what they're feeling as a result of the death of George Floyd?
Well, my message has been, obviously, the real focus has got to be the message you want to deliver. And the message you want to deliver is you want to make sure the safety of every citizen. And if you feel, and as was observed by many individuals, what they saw happen in Minneapolis was incorrect, was wrong. And the message that has been sent is that should not continue and that should not happen. And we want to prevent that from happening again. And that message needs to be voiced to as many people as you can reach out to. But that message can't be diluted by the looters and the vandals. And my message to everybody is you denounce the vandals and you denounce the looters, but make sure your message is heard by all those that you want to make sure they hear. And, continue your First Right Amendment as we would with everybody else. We thank the community for coming together and protecting every one of these small businesses. I will tell you, there were a lot of nervous people before that very first protest. And the unfortunate part was that there was very little communication between our police department and the organizers. So that's what made, I think, everybody a little bit nervous because they didn't know what was going on. They saw what happened in San Bernardino the night before. They saw what was happening over the weekend in Los Angeles and other places. So I think a lot of neighbors helped neighbors, and small businesses help small businesses protect their interests from any kind of vandalism and looters, and as much as possible. And I think that message needs to be carried. It's still being carried by many individuals, but again, it doesn't seem like we're getting as much looting and vandalism as we had before, where these individuals were only opportunists. They were there to hurt small business for whatever reason. And not really part of the peaceful protest march. So, I thank the small business people that helped other small business people. And I think most of everybody has had a positive spin on, positive view on everything that's happened, and understand that there's a differentiation between the peaceful protesters and also the vandals. So I think overall as a community, we've come together and done very well. And I always believed that from the very beginning. I didn't think anything different. And we know, once a person gave me an analogy. He said, Andy, I really am not a protester or anything, but he said, the protesters have a right to protest. And I kind of look at this as taking medication that is going to help my illness. You take the medication that helps my illness, but when you look on the list, there's these side effects. That side effects from this medication that you take, and those looters are a side effect of the looting that occurred or the protesting that occurred. So they are not as big or large. They do happen, but the primary thing is making sure that the people's voice is heard. So that was something that, just from a complete observer that really does not get involved in politics at all, but felt that very strongly about the individual's right to protest.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that with us. And moving on to reopening, right? Small businesses are very interested. I know Brian's going to give us some legal updates, but as far as the city of Riverside, the county of Riverside, I know we're starting to go as a state into phase 3. A lot of businesses are confused as to what they can do, they can't do. What's the best resources, Andy, that you would say as far as so that the small businesses have those resources, know how to properly open, making sure that their employees are safe and also their customers or clientele are safe?
Yeah, it's always important to keep a balance between your employees and your customers. Submitting a plan on how you're going to do that is vitally important. Smaller businesses are being challenged, I think, at every corner at this point for a variety of reasons. I mean, they need to do the sanitizing. They need to make sure that their employees are safe. They need to make sure their customers are safe. Um, one of the things is that if you have any questions, please contact our departments and say, "This is my plan. Is there anything you see that I need to improve? I want to make sure that I've got every angle." Some of the things that we've done as a city, we've kind of, especially for restaurants, we've opened up more outdoor dining and allowed them to be outdoors more, which is something that we should have done a long time ago. We just do not have enough of that, but also be a little bit more flexible on the process on getting that outdoor that dining. So
when you say contact the department, how would they contact the department, or who should they contact?
well, if before you go down to City Hall, I would call 311. Just call the general phone number and ask for the planning department, letting them know that you have a small business you'd like to open up. You want to make sure you have every step covered. Again, if you have a restaurant, part of that is going to be with the county, but they could provide some guidance on how to do that. So I would say, rather than getting in the car and going out, call 311 and connect with our planning department, and they will definitely direct you on who you need to call and who you need to speak to, or you might be able to submit the plan online. I haven't gotten into those specifics, but you might be able to submit that online. They can look it up because they do have the documentation there in their office. So that's what I would do.
Perfect. And Andy, can you talk a little bit before we move on to our next speaker about the Riverside Arts Academy and what are the plans now that we're starting to reopen, and tell us a little bit just about the Riverside Arts Academy?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a summer program. It'll be an online program at this point. Again, we're still not quite into phase 3, which opens up our centers. But the Riverside Arts Academy for me was really only a dream before I became a city council member. And in 2006, when I first started introducing, and believe me, that this really occurred prior to us being called the City of Arts and Innovation. But this is 2006, where I got elected in February, and we started a summer opera program. And believe me, I got some flack from some of my constituents in the East Side because they wanted more mariachi and norteña music. But my thought about opera was, we need to open the minds of our children. We need to broaden our scope. The cultural things that we do every day, we do see at weddings or fiestas or jamaicas or birthday parties. But it benefits the children and even our families to understand a different way of storytelling, different way of singing, maybe pick up a different language, understand different cultures. So I thought it was important. I received really, I reached out to a lady by the name of Susana Guzman, and she has a wonderful story. She's from East LA, was about 20 years old, was a part of a rock and roll band, and she didn't do very well with her throat because she was kind of burning out her throat. So she went to a voice doctor. The voice instructor, the voice doctor pretty much said, "Boy, you have a wonderful voice. Have you ever thought about opera?" Well, she's born in East LA, right at the foot of, some of the, Dorothy Chandler Pavilion and all those things. She never ever considered it. She thought about it, tried it, something that was completely foreign to her. She tried out for a few parts, got it. When she was about 25, she ended up getting the role of Carmen, which she played then throughout the entire world. Young lady from East LA, never knew anything about opera. She now speaks Italian. She now speaks French. She now speaks some German, in addition to the Spanish and the English that she grew up with. So she came out and helped us with our first opera camp, and she helped us for the first 8 years. And her story related very strongly with all the rest of the Latinos there in the community about how she did this. And she also created a small play on what is opera. Don't be afraid, it's only opera. And she would break it down to everybody. She did a wonderful job with that. So we did that for 8 years. In about 2008, we introduced ballet. Ballet was really completely foreign to the East Side as well. Nobody had thought about doing ballet. So that went off extremely well. We started adding a few more music programs to our Park and Rec. And in 2012, we finally opened up the Riverside. We used to call it Riverside, the Riverside, I don't even remember now, Riverside Art School. So anyway, I think it was Riverside, I don't remember now because it was Riverside Arts Academy. But in 2012, we opened it up thinking we were going to get about 50 students. Well, we got 50 students, and by that summer, we had 500 students. And it was just overwhelming. We could not keep up with the demand, and people wanted their children to have this opportunity. So now we service about 4,500 to 5,000 children a year doing that. And we have to do fundraising to make sure $80,000 to $90,000 worth of fundraising per year to keep the program going. We are going to have a summer program. We are doing online learning right now. It'll be over the summer. Children are doing extremely well. All our instructors are PhDs. Dr. Moon is a doctor over at Cal Baptist. Dr. Naomi Wheeler, she's amazing. Grew up in Mexico, or born in Mexico, grew up in Spain, and then came back to Mexico, and now is here in the United States. Conducts orchestras. Also, she's a doctor, Dr. Wheeler. We have Dr. Postgate is another one. We have almost all of our instructors are either, well, almost all of them are master's degree music, and but some of them do have their bachelor's degree in music. So when you think about the East Side 14 years ago, that would have never been a place that children would have gone to learn violin or cello or viola or learn ballet or any of those types of things. From our Riverside Arts Academy coming out of the East Side has been our first youth orchestra. So we started that about 1.5 years ago. So we're doing extremely well, even with the challenges that we have. But again, fundraising is something we need to do on a regular basis. We've got great partners with Park and Rec and several other community members, but it has been just an amazing experience. Colette Lee has been our chair for our committee because I'm a council member and will vote on some things. I cannot be directly on the committee and do votes, but I am in the meetings as a what do they call me? Whatever they call you when you can be on the board but not have a voting rights on that. So
you're more advisory. So you're on there as an advisor?
Almost like an advisor. When you, my mind's a little bit going in different directions right now, but I am part of the group still, and do participate and do help with fundraisers and do contribute and do all those things. So,
well, thank you so much, Andy. I think this is a great program that you have started. Congratulations, because I know that just like from learning about the program, it's helped many students. And we will make sure that on our website, we have a link to the Academy in case any of our viewers are interested in donating for the programs, because it does help so many people. And Nancy was nice enough to let us know it's an ex officio as far as your title for the board. But Andy, thank you so much for taking the time. I want our viewers to know that you still can use the Q&A box throughout. So whether it's for our council member or for any of our panelists, make sure that you're asking questions. So thank you so much, Andy. We really appreciate you being our Cafecito Wednesday.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. Good to see everybody. And think about my time at the Greater Riverside Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in 2005 and 2006 when I was chair. Back then, it was really a great experience. We did a lot of things with. At that time, it was Lorraine Saint was part of the group along with Dina. Dina was very involved, and so was Maria at that time. So as well as many other individuals. I'm proud to have been a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce since 1982. So.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is amazing.
Probably your oldest member.
And because of support of our community, we keep on growing and our chamber just keeps on getting bigger and bigger. So thank you so much and for all your leadership in every sense of the way.
All right, you're very welcome. Take care. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course, thank you.
Bye.
And next, I'm going to bring on our co-treasurer, Elisa Cortez, who is going to be speaking along with our member spotlight, which is Nancy Melendez. Welcome, Nancy and Elisa.
Hi, good morning. I'm just going to quickly introduce Nancy. Nancy Melendez is the president of the Spanish Town Heritage Foundation, an organizer for the Riverside Tamale Festival, and an integral member of many prominent community organizations and boards, including the Riverside Women's Club, Latino Network, and the Fair Housing Council of Riverside County. During a ceremony for the Dr. Carlos Cortez Award, Mayor Rusty Bailey said of her that Riverside is fortunate to have Nancy Melendez inspiring our city to become more inclusive. So welcome, Nancy. And go ahead and fill us in on everything you're working on right now.
Thank you, Elisa. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning, even if it is virtually. There's a meme going around that, we huggers are having a tough time with this social distancing because if you know me, you know I like to hug. So we'll all do what we need to do, though, to keep the virus at bay and move forward. So onward. The Riverside Tamale Festival started in 2013. We had it planned for April 18th. It would have been our 8th annual, but it came amidst the stay-at-home order, so we checked with the authorities and have postponed it to September 19th. And this is still iffy. We don't know if we'll be in or be able to go forward with it. We probably won't be able to make a decision until August 1 and at the very latest August 15th, which is 30 days prior to the event, because we don't know whether we'll be in phase 4 at that time, whether we'll be able to get the appropriate permits that we need to move forward. So we'll have to take that decision when it comes. But I want to thank the Greater Riverside Hispanic Chamber for joining the Tamale Festival family as a sponsor and a committed sponsor for several years. So we thank you for your support, because we do indeed at the Tamale Festival want to show and share our culture, our food, our music, our entertainment, because in doing that will bring understanding to others. So Tamale Festival will go on, whether it's in September of this year or if it's next year, but it will go on because it is the major fundraiser that we use at Spanish Town Heritage Foundation to do the work that we do to preserve and restore the Trujillo adobe, which originally was built in 1842 while this area was still part of Alta California, Mexico. So our ancestors have been here since that time, and we want to share that story not only with the general public, but with our children who study city and state history in 3rd and 4th grade. So to that end, we've been working with Riverside Unified School District within a memorandum of understanding, to do some programming for them. We had hoped to start this fall, but we'll see what school looks like this fall before we move forward. But we are going to go virtual as well, as have many others. So Spanish Town Heritage Foundation was created out of the festival. Darlene Trujillo Elliott, Suzanne Armas, and myself started this to raise money so we could restore the Trujillo adobe. Now on the screen before you, you see a couple of the projects that we've been working on. On the slide to your right is what we have done and are doing on the grounds of the adobe. If you don't know where it's located, it's at the corner of Center Street and North Orange, just at the county line between San Bernardino and Riverside County. In 1842, and when the adobe was originally built, this was all San Bernardino County. Riverside County wasn't formed until much later. When it was carved out, instead of using the Santa Ana River as a dividing line, as many folks do, the dividing line was split right down through the middle of the community known as La Placita de los Trujillos. It was a burgeoning political force at that time, and so there we go. That's what happened to that. So we are raising money to restore the grounds and continue the work that we've been doing, as you saw on the previous slide. And if you'd like to buy a brick, we have bricks on sale for $75 each. You can inscribe it. There's 20 spaces in 3 lines available to do so. we'd love to have you support it. Maybe we would have one that says Greater Riverside Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Who knows? Or if you have a loved one that you'd like to recognize or something. It's just a small way that we can do some fundraising, since we don't have the festival to guide us through this time at the moment. So we hope that you'll be supportive. And, I'd love to talk to anyone who's interested to see if perhaps one of your family members were one of the original descendants that came over the Old Spanish Trail to settle here. We have a family genealogist. We have someone who has great records, and we can check for you, because it's always good to find another cousin or another relative. So we hope that you will join us with that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm like, oh, and that's a great price as well for something that's going to be, part of this historical site. And you could take your kids and grandkids there and explore, hopefully, when things open back up.
Absolutely. We want everyone to come. We have monthly programming planned. We had it planned. We started in January and February. March, we were there, and then the stay-at-home orders came through, so we've not been back out on site since then. But we have monthly celebrations planned at the Adobe with crafts for the kids, tours, so that we want to really show everybody what a gem we have right in our own backyard. Remembering back in the day when we all did our 4th grade mission projects and we all had to run to a mission somewhere to do that project, we have that possibility right here in Riverside at the Trujillo Adobe. And that's the kind of center we want to make, because we want to be able to show you what crops were grown in the area. We want to tell you the story about the bell and how it saved all the residents of the area when the flood of 1862 came. We want to tell you how our ancestors walked along the Old Spanish Trail to get here, and what they had to endure and what they had to survive, even having a baby mid-route along the way. Because as we tell our 3rd and 4th graders, there were no hotels, there was no McDonald's, there were no video games, there was nothing out there but Mother Nature. So that's what we want to share with everyone. And you can take a look at our social media links there. And I apologize, Joe, the Twitter account is incorrect. I tried it last night, and it's at Riv Tamale, no fest. So everybody just put through the fest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's super exciting. And Nancy, thank you so much for everything that you do in our community as well. And we're lucky to be a part of the Tamale Festival, and hopefully we are able to get a GRHCC brick. I think that would be a great contribution.
Thank you.
And next, I want to introduce one of our board members. He's our co-treasurer, Mr. Brian Owen Sahagan from Sahagan Law. He's a partner there. And he's going to be giving us some COVID local legal updates that have been really helpful for our business owners. And thank you so much, Brian, for doing this. Welcome.
Good morning, buenos dias, to another Cafecito Wednesday. Thank you for joining us again. So a few updates, not a whole lot on the COVID front, but one of the big things happening as of Friday, this upcoming Friday, new businesses are allowed to reopen. So businesses that are allowed to reopen at 25% capacity or 100 people, whichever is the greater, are movie theaters, bowling alleys, mini golf courses, batting cages, and arcades, so-called family entertainment. Also opening are bars, gyms, professional sports without any live audiences, schools, and day camps. So all of those are allowed to reopen beginning Friday. Things that are not allowed to reopen that would kind of fall into the same category are ice skating and roller skating rinks, laser tag locations, water parks, and amusement parks. If you are reopening, make sure that you do comply with all of the local guidelines concerning social distancing and face masks. Ensure that you're complying and so you're helping everybody out as well. Also want to remind you, if you do have PPP loans, there are some new rules that came into effect last week. So the president has signed a new law that has made the following changes. So you used to have 8 weeks to spend the PPP loan money. You now will have 24 weeks to do that. Your PPP loan had to be used for payroll in order to qualify for forgiveness. That number has been reduced to 60% of the PPP loan amount in order to qualify for forgiveness. And if you're less than 60%, there is partial forgiveness.
I
qualify.
think.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I apologize.
Okay. Also, the payment period in the event you do not qualify has been increased to 5 years for any loan that's given after June 5th. But anybody that has a loan that was provided before June 5th can work out some kind of an agreement with their lender. So keep that in mind as well. And I want to go through just kind of a reminder, a review of what you can use the loan for that's forgivable. So the first thing and the biggest one is payroll. Remember, you want to try to get to the 60% use on payroll expenses. So I've had a lot of questions on what payroll expenses are. So that includes your wages, your salaries, your tips. That also includes medical benefits that you're providing your employees. It includes retirement benefits. So this is the employer's portion of medical and retirement. And it includes the employer's portion of state taxes. So that goes into that whole 60% calculation. You may also use it for mortgage interest. So just interest amounts, and that will be forgivable. You can also use it for rent payments in the event you're renting your location. And you can use it for utilities, which will include cell phones, your internet, and then some transportation expenses. And lastly, as you're going through this PPP, make sure you're saving documentation of these expenses. So you're going to want to save your Form 941s for your payroll taxes that show who's working and the amount that you're paying them. And you're going to want to save payments showing your mortgage or your rent payments as well as your utilities payments. I would recommend if you get the PPP loans, maybe think about putting it in a separate account and just running those expenses through that account. And that would make your accounting of this a lot easier in the back end when you have to submit your application. And with that, that is the legal updates for this week.
Thank you so much, Brian. And then now we know that the form is out there for the PPP forgiveness. So it's out there so that people can see what documents are required. I think that it's important for people to remember that the lender's not automatically going to forgive it, that you have to actually submit for the forgiveness. Can you just briefly touch on that, Brian?
So there is a form that has been published. I believe we are going to go through it in English and Spanish to show you how to fill it out. We need to get on that, and we will do that. And so you do have to submit that form to your lender once you have used the funds or before this now 24-week period. So in order to qualify for the forgiveness.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. And if any of the business owners have any legal questions, they can always contact you at the number on the screen or via Facebook, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it. Always great to have these updates because as we know, every single day, it seems like something new happens and then there's confusion about what to do, not to do. So we appreciate you coming on and giving us the legal updates.
Absolutely.
And so next, I'm going to introduce Joe Ramos. He's our executive director. Joe's going to be giving us some chamber updates and some of our partner updates.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Carmen. We have a couple of quick updates from the GRHCC. The first one we touched on a little bit last week, and it's the return of our scholarship golf tournament. We do have a date finalized now. It's going to be August 14th of this year at Dos Lagos Golf Course in Corona. So we're really excited about that. It's a great cause. We do this every year through the chamber. We provide scholarships to local students who are looking to further their education, whether it be community college, local college level. Provide them with scholarships of $1,000 and also school supplies, printers, laptops. So it's a great cause. We're really excited that we're able to do that again this year. There's going to be more information coming, so please watch our social channels, Facebook, Instagram. There'll be more updates through there for opportunities to play, to sponsor, and to be involved. The other big announcement we have for the chamber is thanks to our partnership with the Riverside Chamber of Commerce, the County of Riverside, and also the work of some of our board members. We were able to secure a limited supply of protective face masks for our members. These masks are available on a first-come, first-served basis. If we could get the next slide, please. There's a contact number there. You can reach me at the chamber anytime. You do have to schedule a pickup for the masks. They're going to be one box of 50 per member. And again, they are on a first-come, first-served basis, so please reach out to me if you're interested in that. They're great for either your employees or even your customers, if you want to make sure to provide them masks when they come into your stores or shops.
Thank you so much, Joe. And we want to remind our viewers that it's important that if you know of anybody that does need the masks, 50 masks do go a long way. just for the protection. I know some people have issues with the mask and are not to use the mask, but it's for the protection of your employees, for yourself, and for your customers. And because of the partnership, I think it's a great opportunity. Please take advantage of it. We do have a limited supply, but we will keep giving them out as long as we have the need for it. And in regards to our golf tournament, we are very excited about our golf tournament. It is for a great cause. And just to let everybody know, depending on where we are in August, maybe we may have a banquet, we may just have like an outdoor kind of picnic. I know things have changed during COVID, but it's important that we support and we continue to do our programs like the Tamale Festival and the Spanish Heritage, the Arts Academy, our local students, because it's been hard for a lot of college students or high school students transitioning because all of a sudden you're not actually going into the classroom, it's virtual, getting those resources out there. So for us, it's important. I think laptops are more important now than they ever have been. And so that's part of our scholarship program. And I think that, it helps. It just helps. Even if you already have a laptop and it's just not in good condition, or you don't have the laptop and you have to share it with other family members. So if you can, please make sure to support our golf tournament. And Joe, if they want to get any more resources, where should our viewers go?
That's perfect. So I was actually about to get right into that. I encourage everybody watching, please keep an eye out on our Facebook page. That's our quickest and easiest way to update everybody with real-time information at grhcc.com. Our social links are also up there, but our Facebook page is updated multiple times per day, whether it be loan information, other chamber partner information, golf tournament information, because times and dates are changing so quickly right now. So again, just, please keep an eye on that, and that'll be the best way to get contacts and updates from the GRHCC.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe, for that update.
Thank you.
And I know that we had a few questions for Mr. Mustafa. Unfortunately, he had to go to another meeting. However, I am going to be placing his email in the chat box. He said that if you did have any questions, please feel free to email him at nmustafa@riversideca.gov. I think those were the only questions that we had. Does any of our panelists or board members have any questions or comments? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are doing this every Wednesday, our Cafecito. It's at 10 a.m. Please make sure to join us. Let us know. Email us if you want to see different topics or hear different people perspectives. Please feel free to email us at info@grhcc.com, and we will do our best. Please stay safe, and we will see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you for the invitation. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.